Hi, I'm Matt from MOTU. Today I've got a very special guest, Scott Kinsey. Scott's a fabulous keyboard player, producer, engineer. We've got him here in the studio today, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his MOTU system and what he's been working on lately. How are you, Scott?
Great.
Awesome.
Glad you could come by.
Hey, thank you. Tell us a little bit about what you're working on these days, musically.
Studio-wise, I just finished a new Tribal Tech record, and now out, called Tribal Tech X. And we tracked that and mixed it and mastered it all here. And literally right now, we just finished mixing a brand new Scott Henderson record with Jeff Berlin and Dennis Chambers, and that's, I'm just getting to the mastering phase on that one. I'm also doing a lot of traveling, playing with my group. This newest Tribal Tech record, there's a song on that called Working Blue, and there's a little section in the middle that modulates, and there's some fast lines and different things like that. I had actually come up with that while I was traveling through Europe about 4 years ago. You can take it with you on your laptop. I have a little ultralight that, I've traveled all over the world with this, which I use for my live setup, but I also take it to my hotel room and plug it in, and I can plug my earphones in with good quality sound and any microphone or whatever, and I'm in business. So I'll just open it up, my laptop with my little keyboard, something like this, and improvise for a few minutes and save it and close it and go on. You never know. I mean, you're making a record all the time with this stuff, and that's what's amazing about it.
Do you use DP also in live situations? Mm-hmm. And how do you do that?
I can set up 3 or 4 tracks with virtual instruments on them, and simply, I can up, down arrow through whichever one I want to play.
I see.
So it actually makes it very quick. It's all there. It's all very easy to do, and it works great, and it never screws up. That's, I think, one of the most important things too, is it doesn't crash.
So now we're in your studio, and this is where you do all of your work, right?
Pretty much
most of your work. You've got it set up here to do tracking.
Right. Yeah, the studio is pretty simple. It's just 2 rooms. Mm-hmm. So I've got Gary Novak's drum set up pretty much all the time, so he can just come over at any moment and track.
Kind of mic'd up and ready to go?
It's mic'd up and ready to go.
Oh, great.
Well, everything is connecting through my MOTU 828 audio interface. Mm-hmm. So that has MIDI and audio and optical inputs and outputs, as well as SPDIF. So I'm using all of that. All the inputs that I'm running, all the different preamps come up here. Mm-hmm. Basically the stuff laid out, like drum kits are here, hi-hat, rack 1, rack 2, rack 3, floor tom. I've got stereo input from this Precision 8 here. I've got my left and right universal audio here. Mm-hmm. And basically I just set up whatever level it is I want to hear. And that does not affect the level that goes into DP as a recording level, however, which is very convenient. This is simply monitoring, and it's no latency. And hit record on DP, and I'm capturing everything, but I'm capturing it at the optimal level, which I'm setting at my pre's.
Got it.
So this is simply a way to hear what I'm doing, monitor what I'm doing, and I can mute them. I can set up a talkback mic, so if a drummer's in the other room, we have to communicate. It's very easy. And it's just a really well thought out setup. And it really works. And it's, like I say, very compact and very easy to use.
So Scott, in DP, what audio plugins and virtual instruments are you using these days?
As far as plugins, audio plugins, there's a few different ones that I use quite a bit. One I use every single day, funny enough, is Trim. Just by trimming down however many dB, I'm finding that I'm peaking. Mm-hmm. So that's very useful. It's just a very bread and butter useful thing. Sure. As far as sounds, I really like Proverb. I think it's kind of amazing that you get a convolution reverb included with Digital Performer, because sometimes when you buy a package like that, you're not buying a whole bunch of other things. You want to use the things that came with it, and this is a very good convolution reverb. Convolution meaning samples of real halls and spaces that actually exist in the world. Mm-hmm. And that's included. So, I mean, very, very awesome.
What's it on right now? Just curious.
Right now, I'm putting it on Scott Henderson's guitar from our ballad off of our Tribal Tech X record. And I can adjust the length of the reverb.
Oh yeah, would you mind soloing the guitar just for a sec?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So you can hear that decay out very nicely. One thing I also love about Performer is the ability to set up key commands that are your specific key commands. And so what I've done is I've set up this little reverse dash key as a solo button. So if I just hit that, I'm soloing the guitar.
Right.
So you can hear what it's really doing. Can I just pre-delay? So it's very wet. You know, it might be more wet than I would want it, but it's just to give you an idea what it sounds like.
Well, let me ask you a little bit about the way you edit MIDI data. Can you talk about that for a minute?
Sure. I use a sequence editor.
For the MIDI?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Always. Well, like I said, I like to capture the audio and MIDI data together. So if I do need to edit something or change something or add a sound to something later on, I can experiment and have fun with that. So I can, you know, if I use a Rhodes sound, I could call up Electric Keys and make it a Wurlitzer or something else. You know, it's very flexible. You know, if you want to do that, it helps to be able to see what you're doing. So I've got my MIDI editor here. These are note data. So oftentimes I like to look at it like this. I can see exactly where things attacked and how each note is a little bit starting at a little different place. I can correct that. I can quantize that if I want to. Oftentimes I'll use maybe like 58% quantization, or 66 is another one I use.
Is that right?
Yeah, and I often don't quantize releases. I'll just let the releases be how they were and only quantize the attacks. And then that brings all these notes together. Now if I still want to further manipulate that, I might say, well, you know, I want that to line up with where the drummer hit his cymbal. So I can see that clearly here. I've got my overheads here, and that's where the cymbal hit. So if I really want this to be extremely in time, I can simply move it like that, and now everyone's hitting together. This is the same channel's audio. You can see it's a little later, and that's actually how I played it, and that's really how I want it. So I can just undo that and now I'm back to where I was. But if this note really needs to be a little longer, I can just drag it out, or if it needs to start at a different time, I can simply put it where I want it. So I really love that. Now, as an alternative, I might actually look at notation, because that's very handy as well. And you know, if I see that I'm playing a quarter note here, I'll just go up here where I can actually choose the note values and say, make it, you know, make it a 16th note or an 8th note, and there I have it. Yeah, the editing is very easy, and I just love how there's a lot of different ways to do the same thing. You can use an event list also. Scott Henderson likes to use an event list for MIDI. I never use an event list, ever. But, you know, it's there, and that's the beauty of DP, is it's just like, what do you like, and you can find a way to work the way you want to work. I actually draw in most of my automation work as opposed to using a control surface. I'm so comfortable, I don't even feel like I need one. You know, if a certain hit or a certain event is just too loud or too soft, it's very easy for me to just put a dot here right before the event I want and another dot after it, and simply raise it up or lower it or do whatever I need to do. And gets the job done, and I feel like that's the most direct way for me. You know, as opposed to just being like, well, I'm feeling this, but in a way I'd rather be, you know, a little more, deliberate.
Sure.
Instead of moving a fader.
Right.
That's just how I like to do it. So I do chop a lot, or mute. In this case, I did mutes. You know, so if I hold M down and hit this, I'm turning on and off the track. So it's a really good way to mute and unmute things as you're working.
That's great.
So I love that.
Have you gotten into the pitch correction at all on DP?
Oh man, I use it like constantly. Right. I use it for vocalists. I can tune a note just like that. I use it for guitars, basses, anything. I mean, even if somebody played a wrong note, you know, I don't have to bother them with it. You know, if they meant to play a C and they played a B, I just slide it up, you know.
It's really good.
It's really extremely good.
It's one of those things we don't really talk about a lot, I think, but we probably should, because guys who know it say, oh, it's so good.
It's one of the greatest, it's really literally one of the best features, most useful everyday kind of features that you can have, and Performer just has that. It's included. It's just part of the software. And again, there's a lot of people that use DP every day that don't know about this. True. I have friends that are, you know, producing vocals and things like that, and I tell them, well, did you tune that? Did you work on that aspect of it at all? Well, no, it's too much trouble, this or that. And I show them, simply go from here, you know, and select pitch, and now you've got these little blobs, or whatever you want to call them, for every note.
Right.
It's incredible. So like this note I can see right now, it's a little sharp. You can see the vibrato.
Right.
You can see the pitch fall off there, and you can see that maybe, you know, there's a hair sharp possibly, I don't know. I mean, if he needed to play another note, we can make him play another note. and it works beautifully, you know.
Right.
So that is an incredible feature to me that I use like literally nonstop, you know, because do a lot of stuff with vocalists, and you know, I mean, I don't make it obvious. I don't ever want it to sound like auto-tune. I don't ever want it to sound like an effect or anything that was really touched. I just want them in tune.
Just in tune.
And just here and there, you know, there's might be one note that you're picking out of a whole performance, but it just makes a difference between what sounds really acceptable and nice and what maybe you should have done another take.
I see.
So you can save great impulsive, you know, like spur of the moment or in the moment takes where that you couldn't have used before because of pitch.
So Scott, how do you find DP plays with other platforms in terms of bringing in files and exporting files, that kind of thing?
Oh yeah, it's a piece of cake. It almost doesn't matter what file format I get or what the file was created, if it was created on Pro Tools or whatever, and that happens all the time where people are using Pro Tools systems and they want to give it to you to work on. It's like
No
nothing.
problem.
It's no problem. Pretty much any format, AIF, WAV, or almost anything else, any file resolution or bit depth or whatever, sample rate. It just loads right in.
That's great.
You know, and it'll even auto convert if you need that to happen.
I see.
But yeah, no, it's very simple, and then vice versa. If I need to go from here to somewhere else, it's just a matter of a simple export, and it's a piece of cake. Yeah.
Good to hear.
Everyone can work together no matter what they're using, because, you know, to be honest, I'm not flexible. I'm not going to change my DAW because someone else is using Pro Tools or whatever. But that's just no problem. You know,
Right.
It's no problem. I can import anything and I can give them anything that we can all use.
That's great.
Yeah. And I remember when this wasn't as easy, but nowadays it's very, very simple.
What is it about the program that still keeps you coming back? Like, what are the strengths of the program in your mind?
Well, the amazing thing about Performer is it seems like no matter what you want to do, it can do it. I love the consolidated windows. I use them all the time. Just seems like every little advance that happens in DP, I go, you know, I've been wanting that, you know, or I've been waiting for that. And, you know, the funny thing is, even certain basic things that you find are simple, normal, everyday things on Performer, I'll talk to someone who asks me, hey, why didn't you switch to Logic? Why aren't you using Logic? And I'm like, okay, well, let me ask you something. Does it do this or can it do that? Or what do you think about the way you edit, you know, particular sound bites in Logic? Oh, well, it's a real problem. I can't do that. And I'm thinking, you know, I've been able to do that for years in DP. It just works right. The way you can group tracks, so I can edit drum tracks all together at the same time. There's just a million things about the way that DP works that I love. And the other thing is that it sounds great. It really does sound good. And so I don't know. I'm a fan. And
That's
I have
well
been
said.
for years. So.
Thank you.